Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everybody to the February 19th, 2019 regular board meeting for Medina City Schools. If everyone would join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mr. Chambers, call roll.
Mr. Eastwood.
Here.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Here.
Mr. Skidmore.
Here.
Ms. Pavlik.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Here.
Thank you.
The approval of minutes. If I can get a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on January 22nd, 2019.
I'd make a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll second.
Discussion? Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
And approval of minutes. If I can get a motion to approve the minutes from the work session that we conducted on February 4th, 2019.
I'll move we approve the February 4th work session minutes.
I'll second.
Mr. Chambers. Yep.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
I'm going to abstain, and the reason I'm abstaining is because I was not in attendance at the February 4th work session, and I'm not comfortable voting for a meeting that I did not attend, so I will abstain. Thank you. Any additions, removals, modifications to our tonight's agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve our agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chambers. Thank you.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Thank you.
I will now turn it over to our superintendent, Mr. Sable.
Good evening. It's nice to see so many young smiling faces out there tonight. We're fortunate to start off tonight's board meeting with two presentations. And I want to start by inviting Fenn Elementary School up to the front to talk about the great things that are happening over at Fenn.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the board and thank Superintendent Sable for inviting us out tonight. And thank you to everyone else for coming to see Fenn's presentation. Biggest turnout yet, so that's awesome. We have a couple of friends with us tonight who are going to talk about some of the great things that are going on at Fenn. We have one, it's curricular, and one extracurricular. And in fact, the second one spawned from a curricular lesson. So I'm going to have Madison Locker come up first. Madison is a third grader at Sydney Fenn. As part of her project in class, it's a writing project. We were working on our writing standards. They were talking about opinion pieces. We were working on stating opinions with lists of reasons. They were really trying to persuade me into something, which is a great part of the year. I love going down to third grade during this lesson, during this activity, because I hear many different points of view. Madison's in particular was something that she was very passionate about. I'll let her talk about it. But we really look for things, especially during these, that we can make happen for kids. And that is really what's kind of cool about this. You look at the learning standards, but I would add an extra one on there of saying, what can we do to kind of make their wish come true if that can happen. So Madison, I'm going to have you come on up here and talk a little bit about the process. She's going to tell you a little bit about where she started and then share her persuasive essay with you.
Hi, my name is Madison Locker. I'm very passionate about soccer. We were asked to do a persuasive essay about something we care about. My essay was about how I wanted a soccer field for Sydney Fenn. Talking with Mr. Komar and my teacher, Miss Downey, They said we couldn't have a soccer field because they didn't have the space for it. They helped me with an idea of an indoor soccer team through McPal. Here's my speech. Have you ever been super excited because you got new shoes or a new ball? Well, if we get a soccer team, that's how you feel. We should have an indoor soccer team for all of the Medina elementary schools. My first reason is it would be good for all the kids' participation and teamwork. Maybe some of the kids might not be able to afford to be on a real soccer team. But if we run a soccer team through McPal, all they have to do is join. My second reason is when it's winter, you can't play soccer outside. And when it's finally spring, you're just playing, but you haven't played for a few months. So you're out there huffing and puffing. I can fix that. If we get a soccer team, we can improve our skills. When it's spring, your coach will be saying that you really improved from last season. My third reason is kids that have never played soccer before will get an opportunity to play. Kids will get a chance to finally play on a soccer team. So please, could we have a soccer team? Thank you for your time. Any questions?
All right. Well, obviously she's well-spoken and a cutie to boot. So, but she did a great job. And as we were going through and listening to all these different speeches, I think one of the things that she started off with was her passion. She talked about something she was passionate about. But then as she went out, she actually went out and took measurements of our playground, really tried to talk me into areas of our parking lot that we could rip up, plant seed, put sod down, talked about the process of forming teams, who we'd play against, all of this stuff. She was very well researched in this. But obviously the reality of all of that happening in our land space was not quite there. So we kind of redirected her and let her focus on one of the groups that we work with quite often, McPal. McPal's there every Tuesday and Thursday with us. And right now we're just in the process of getting our McPal team started for the basketball tournament that takes place every March. So that seemed like a great median point to meet at and to talk about what is this possibility. So as you can see from the picture, Chief Grice came out, sat down with her and talked about what her idea was. She presented it to him, and that is something that the two of them are going to continue to meet on and work out so that can become a reality and hopefully have not only a McPal basketball tournament next year, but a McPal soccer tournament that will more than likely, since she's in third grade now, be a fourth grade soccer tournament next year. So she did a very nice job. So again, I'd give her a nice round of applause. Looking at the persuasive essays, another area, you talk about kids' voices truly do matter. These are just some of the examples of things that came out of those persuasive essays and just conversations with kids. I think all too often we, in schools, look at solving problems, but we don't always talk to the people that we need to talk to in order to solve those problems, the kids. So throughout these essays and throughout conversations with kids, we have a student lounge. It's supervised. A student lounge at our school now because of that's something that they wanted. We have a food delivery program that is serving people that need it. Our school store had started because of a kids initiative to start that. We have a coding club that's in its second year. Our Fen cheer team just presented at the pancake breakfast this year, and that was as a result of kids wanting a cheerleading team at our school. And we also had another young lady who sat down this year with our cafeteria manager, and she decided that we needed healthier choices in our ice cream line, and she got frozen yogurt instead of just all ice cream. So a lot of good push coming through this. So kids' voices absolutely do matter. Our next presenter is coming up and talking about Coding Club. So before I have Lillian come up, I do want to have Terry Sabo, she's our paraprofessional, our media paraprofessional, come up to just talk a little bit about where we've been with technology and kids and the progression to get to where we are right now. So I'd like to welcome up Terry Sabo.
Hi, I would just kind of like to show you the route we took to get where we are with our coding club. We started using Hour of Code, if any of you are familiar with that. It's a global website that started to increase awareness of computer science education, and it's grown by millions and huge, 180 plus countries. And we use this during our technology time at school. There's games, there's tutorials, there's how to write code, and the kids really, really enjoyed it. And then after that, we got our persuasive request, a letter written by a third grader that said they would like to see some type of computer club for the kids that were really interested. So our first club started out as just a computer club, and the kids came in, and it was back before Windows 10, and they would come in and learn all those quick fixes and shortcuts and things they could do to fix your computer when you had your dreaded blue screen and that kind of thing. And they would help students and teachers. They did a little AV maintenance. They would keep track of our overhead projectors, make sure they were running good and that type of thing. And then those kids had the added benefit of being able to learn things like scratch coding and that kind of stuff. And then the next club we had was our technology club, and that ran last year. And we did a lot of really fun things with that. We did the Sphero. It's a little programmable ball. You program it with your iPad. We would build Kiva mazes and make the ball go through the mazes. We did B-bots, another programmable type of thing. And we did a lot of different things with that also. And then this year we kind of stepped it up, and now we are the coding club. And our coding club this year is working on learning how to program chips, Raspberry Pi, microbits. And I think Lillian is going to come up and explain some of the fun things that our kids are learning and doing during our coding club time.
So Coding Club this year is basically about how to code 2 different devices. There is the Raspberry Pi and a microbit. So basically, a Raspberry Pi is a little computer chip that is in many electronics around these days. It uses Linux and all these different devices, so then you can code with them. You can code different like Minecraft servers, sound, music. You can code on these different coding plots, like Python and Scratch. You can also use for the microbit. You can use that. It has little LEDs in it. So when you program, there's this app on a computer or on many other devices that there's an app that you can program different like LED light shows. You can program different words to like go across the screen. You can even play like games on it. There's this, if you can connect a speaker to it, you can also make sound out of it. So when you program different devices, like at Coding Club and this last few weeks, we've been trying to code on Minecraft, how to build a house in Minecraft with using Python. We use this platform called Python 3, and we all are trying to figure it out. And so I like to do Coding Club because I have an opportunity for when I'm older, I use many of these platforms at school to make when I'm older, I can be an inventor or a coder. My brother is actually an inventor in robotics at STEM High School and is about to go on to go to Worlds for robotics. So that's all. Any questions?
I'd just like to say how incredibly well spoken you were, and thank you for that presentation. That was great.
I had to tell her to make sure she doesn't forget to get our stuff back because I thought you guys might be so interested you might pocket it up there. We just met again today for Coding Club, and I don't want to forget to say Lillian's dad, Jeff Kirsch, who's right behind us here, is helping. He's I don't want to say helping lead. He is the knowledge, the brain behind all of this. He has a passion for it, and obviously that's where Lillian gets that as well. So he's been coming in every Tuesday to meet with the kids after school, also with Miss Sabo and myself, and leading the kids through. And today was truly the first day where the kids took lines and lines and lines of code, and when they executed it, they were either going to see this cool house on the program, or they were going to see nothing. And some of the groups saw nothing, and one of the groups saw a nice house, and they all celebrated. So they were able to work together in a group of 4 or 5 to type the code, get the code in, problem solve through if they did have a problem, where that problem was. Some groups worked really well together. Others are still working on their team working skills. But it truly is a club where you're learning a skill, but you're also learning how to work together and cooperatively in groups, problem solve, and hopefully come out with the same end result. So they all do such a nice job, and it's such a neat opportunity. And again, this all came based off of somebody's desire and passion to write about that in 3rd grade. And now it's affecting more and more kids each and every year. So if there aren't any other questions, we do have a question.
No, let me ask you, Craig. It says 4th and 5th graders, so 3rd graders are not in the coding club, or they are?
We are starting this off with 4th and 5th graders, with this being our first year, to try to get some mastery behind it. And then after we get our first group of 4th graders through, then they'll be able to be teachers with kids in the club next year. And then we'll be able to bring in younger kids after that. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight.
I'd like to thank Fen and our students who presented. It's special to be able to see the kind of neat programs that we have occurring across the district, and to have the opportunity to share those with our Board of Education, as well as with our community. And these are just little snapshots of the great things that are going on. And what makes it even more special is when you see things like the parent or community member involvement, that it really does take a village, and those extra opportunities that our students have outside of the classroom, in addition to what's going on in the classroom, are just so important to make them the great adults that they're going to be when they graduate from high school, and make them successful in life.
Mr. Sable, I just wanted to say one thing real quick. I just wanted to thank the students again for coming to present, because it's a big deal to come to a board meeting and get up and share your ideas and your passion like that, and we do appreciate it. You did a nice job.
Our next agenda item is actually a repeat item from last month. Last month was Board Recognition Month, and I said 1 or 2 words about the hard work that our Board of Education puts in, as well as how fortunate we are as a community to have such dedicated individuals. Honestly, the amount of hours, whether it's mentally working through things at 3 in the morning because everybody wants to make the best decision for kids, or whether it's being in a meeting for multiple hours to make sure that things are headed in the right directions and we're meeting the expectations of our community. It's a lot of hard work with very little pay. I think the reward, though, is huge, and we just saw that in the FEN presentation. We had a snow day at our last regular meeting, so we had a much smaller attendance, but we, meaning Medina City Schools, want to make sure our board members truly know what your work means to us, and more importantly, what all of your hard work and dedication means to our students. So I'd like to invite our students up to present to our Board of Education.
Hi, my name is Corey Swihart, and I'm a 5th grader at Northrop Elementary. Tonight, I'd like to thank all the board members for their support at our school. Because of the support of the board, we as students have the opportunity to participate in many academic, and extracurricular programs that truly enhance our educational experience. I have the opportunity right now to participate in robotics. As a 5th grader in robotics, I'm able to build and program a Lego robot. This opportunity allows me to practice synergizing skills as I work with others in a group to accomplish a goal. I am also able to personalize the robot and learn and use new skills outside the regular curriculum, which will help me in my future. Thank you for all the support so we can have clubs and after-school activities like robots. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emerson Kearney, and I am a kindergartner at Garfield Elementary School. Today, I am going to talk about some Garfield Elementary events. I'm thankful for the roller skating event. It is so fun. And all my friends were there. Now I want to say thank you for the community book fair. Miss Bradley was there, and she told me that the books that I got were very funny, but the books that I got weren't funny. They were amazing. Thank you, everyone. For making Garfield the best.
Thank you for coming and have a good night. Did you want to say it? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sean Cassidy. I'm a 5th grader at Ella Canavan Elementary School. One reason I like going to school so much is that I get to be in a lot of different clubs like knitting club, chess club, running club, and glee club. I also get to do the morning announcements the first week of every month. I like my teachers, especially Mrs. Liston. Thank you to Mr. Sable and the rest of the board members for supporting Ella Canavan Elementary School.
Hi, my name is Lily Cassidy, and I'm a 5th grader at Ella Canavan. It's an honor to be here. I love Ella Canavan because every morning when I walk through the door, everybody has a positive attitude and shows kindness to each other. I also love how the staff greets the students at the door every morning, brightens up our day, and challenges us in class. Thank you, Board of Education, for supporting our students and staff at Ella Canavan Elementary.
Hello, I am Carter Hines, and I would like to thank the Board of Education for bringing Makerspace to Claggett Middle School. I spend a lot of my free time in Makerspace designing and engineering new ideas. Without Makerspace, I would not have be able to bring some of my ideas to life like this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mitchell Harold. I'm a sophomore here at Medina High School, and I'm here on behalf of all the students and staff of Medina High School to thank you all for supporting not only our daily education in the classroom, but also the extracurriculars that make the high school so great. Clearly, in this district, Medina High School has more opportunities than almost any other school in the district, with dozens of different clubs giving all these opportunities to students to grow with leadership skills and public speaking skills and basically any skill you could need in adult life that you could think of. Clubs like Student Council and the debate team that I am a part of have helped me to become a better person and given me the skills that will help me be successful in my adult life. The board has supported trips that these clubs do every year, trips like the Ohio Association of Student Councils State Conference, which is a trip that Student Council goes on every year and helps us learn about new leadership skills with students of other high schools. The Leeds National Leadership Conference, which is a national leadership conference and one of the top conferences in the country, which Student Council goes on about every 3 or 4 years and helps us learn from some of the best leaders in America how to be the next great leaders of America. And then Student Council service trips, which gives students here the opportunity to go to third world countries and help the people that really need it. And then the Princeton Classic National Debate Tournament, which is one of the most competitive tournaments in the country and allows debate students to compete at the top level. And thanks to your support for trips like this, it allows us to evolve the way that we learn and the ways that basically allows us to evolve basic skills that we're going to need for the rest of our life. Thank you on behalf of Medina High School students for being supportive of expanding our curriculum outside of the classroom. Thank you.
My name is Mason Cooper, and I'd like to talk to you about the music program at Heritage. At our school, we are encouraged to share our gift and make our mark. I have found my gift in music. What I love about learning music with Mrs. Campbell is she has shown us that it's not just repetitively learning notes until we can all name them in a song. Instead, we play games like Faith and Egg Box to help us remember scales. Music has helped me share my gift by giving me many chances to go on stage with the annual musical and talent show, as well as Glee Club. I'm very thankful to the Board of Education for the opportunity to be part of such a wonderful music program at Heritage. We are reading level X. We love going to art and gym, art, music, and library. Thank you for education. Thank you for honoring kindergarten. Please count to 100. We can all of them.
So Helen, tell us what you like about the new math program.
By how we go against our teacher, and if he wins, you still know that you're good at math, you tried your best. And if you win, now you know that you tried your best and you won the game with being super smart and you get a piece of candy or dinner too.
That's awesome. What do you like about the workplaces when you work with your friends?
By how that we like to talk and kind of mess around sometimes, and how the workplaces you go against each other, and sometimes we just go like, dang, if we didn't win the round, but we have so many rounds that we can try it out again, and maybe you'll win some other round
one that you did with the chain links that are behind you. What do you like about the lessons?
Like, so we split up into 10 groups. So, and I was with Kaden, and we were the 300th on, we worked together. I made red, then blue, then red, then blue. And he did blue, then red, then blue, then red. And then we worked together to put them again. I held up the chains and gave it to him. He linked them onto each other. And then I linked on the last one. And then Mr. Fenn linked all of the 100 chains to each other. And then we made 1,000 chains, and it went longer, almost to where to where you get snack bar. And
so you worked together to do this? And did you like working together with your friends?
Oh yeah.
Fantastic.
It's super fun.
So Tony, we have family groups that we meet with every month. Tell me a little bit about what you like about family groups.
I like that we can go with younger kids, help them out, spend time with older kids instead of spending time with only 3rd grade, 1st grade, instead of staying with your class mostly. You get to go with younger kids, older kids, spend more time, make more friends. And I wish there was a little bit more time so we could spend more time and maybe finish the project with the little kids, spend more time and get to know everybody.
Fantastic.
I know it's not the most appreciated position, but I want to say thank you from Aaron Middle School.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to comment?
Wow, and thank you very much. That was amazing and awesome. So thank you, students and administrators and principals and everyone who helped put that together. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
I just want to say that all of these students and what they said, this is what makes it all worth it. All of the time, commitment, the trials and tribulations that we all face heading this district, but you guys all brought tears to my eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. You know, I want to add, you know, we don't do this for the accolades, being on the school board. We do it because of what we just witnessed. Our motto is every student, every day, in all the buildings. That's what we do it for. And yes, we do. Sometimes the work does consume you. We debate, but we also respect each other. You know, there's no crying in school board service. But the goal is to support Mr. Sable and all of our kids and move our school district forward. And I think that's what we're doing, and that's what we're committed to do. And we're not going to give up until we accomplish that. So thank you, kids. And I agree with Mrs. Parkhurst. There was a lot of courage coming up to that microphone and also on that video. So I want to thank all the kids for participating. It was wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to start crying.
Mr. Ross, if I can just comment real quick. I mean, I was so impressed with all the students from the kindergartner, with Miss Kearney speaking to us all the way through all the different classes to the high school age. And a theme, it's a thank to the board, which is so nice of you to do that because we appreciate it, but we don't need that. But really, it's thanking your community because we're representatives of the community. And you're thanking the community that you have the abilities here with the schools, with the opportunities that are here. And it's a privilege for all of us to be part of the system. So thank you for reminding us of that and reminding us why we serve. Thank you.
And if I could just throw one more thing on there, in appreciation to everything was done tonight, that was amazing. But to me, it's a testament of our students and a testament of the families in the community. For everyone that plugs in and helps and encourages both at home and in the classroom. Medina City Schools wouldn't be Medina City Schools if you weren't there. So we thank you all for that as well.
Before I let you guys all go, I need to get a closer look at that robot hand because it's looking pretty cool. Sure. I don't want to break if I was trying to get my hand in it.
I'm Chad Gilmore. We're at the Makerspace at Claggett, and Carter is awesome. He comes every
cool.
eighth period during study hall. He comes during his recess part of lunch, and every challenge that we've had, he's been a part of. And we built a bridge, and we ran out of weights to see if it would crash. He built a catapult. He won the catapult contest. We did a hydraulic robot arm, and then we were like, well, let's try to do a walking robot with hydraulics. And then from that, he kind of morphed into wanting to build this. So he's made this with as a prototype, and now we're actually at the part where he's trying to design each piece on our 3D printer and print it out, and then we're going to try to assemble it all. Just the thought process that he's putting forth is way beyond what we started with when we imagined what it was, but that's kind of the purpose of what we wanted to do, is give them little challenges and see where they go from it. And he's really inspirational to watch. Even other students are coming to the classroom or into the area and watch him, and they start building off ideas that he's doing. So it's really neat to watch.
The opportunities available to our students. I mean, this is the new makerspace. We also have a makerspace over at Garfield, and we're in the process of expanding those makerspaces across the district. And that's part of the strategic plan that we worked with the community and the staff to put together to really provide more access to inquiry-based learning and expand beyond just what's happening in the classroom and develop students as thinkers as well. I need to thank Amy Busby and all of our building principals for coordinating. I truly appreciate that you did this for our Board of Education, and I will let our students and our families leave. You're welcome to stay. But if you want to sneak out now, we'll just take a minute or two and let you sneak out. Thank you. A couple more items I wanted to share with the board as well as with the community, and I know these have been topics of discussion. I've talked to many individuals, whether it's been staff members, community members, parents, in regards to some of the decisions that we're in the process of discussing. And the first one I wanted to mention is the discussion we had at our last work session regarding a job description for a potential assistant athletic director. One thing I want to make sure is really clear is that that is the very first discussion that we've had with our board in regards to a potential position within the athletic department. So we're in the very early stages of trying to make some decisions and figure out what's best for our extracurricular programming moving forward. It is my philosophy and has been to have a very open door when we've had initiatives, and the redistricting and potential bond issue is another example of that I'm going to talk about here in a moment. But I think it's important for us to throw some of the concepts as well as the reasons for those concepts out to our community so that we can get feedback, and we're taking a collaborative approach towards determining the direction that we're heading within the district. And for me, the athletic position is another example of that. A little bit of history. Historically, we have had support within the athletic department, whether it was formally referred to as an assistant athletic director or whether it was a teacher on assignment, whether it was additional support within the program. Prior to the failure of levies 5-6 years ago, our athletic department was much more heavily staffed. Today I was just looking into some of the previous staffing, and at one time it included 3 secretaries, a head AD, an assistant AD. Currently, we operate with 1 secretary and 1 AD, and that's to serve students in both of our middle schools as well as our high schools. Is adding an athletic assistant director part of our strategic plan? No, it's not. Is it something that I think it's important for us to explore and discuss? Yes, I do think it is. And I think some of the presentations, and this wasn't planned to go together, it just happened, but some of the presentations with extracurricular opportunities and how they help develop and grow our students, I think we have a responsibility and we have an expectation from our community to offer top quality programming for our students, not only in the classroom, but also outside of our classroom. The question that I've gotten the last couple weeks is, so are we adding an assistant athletic director? And the answer is I don't know, because we're still talking about it. What we want to do is make sure that we're making the best decision both fiscally and also for providing services for our students as possible. What I do know is that our athletic department could use some extra support and direction. We've been trying to make some adjustments over the course of the past year or two with moving club activities, club sports underneath the athletic department to help in the coordination of those programs, as well as to help them be more competitive and have easier transitions into varsity sports. Organization amongst 2 middle schools and within our league is another big piece of the pie. You know, you go to an athletic event and things seem like they're running so smooth. Well, there's a reason why they are, and it's because of the amount of hard work that's going on in the background. One thing that I can guarantee you is we are not going to be taking funds away from our strategic plan that we promised the community we would be implementing in full with the passage of the recent levy. And we are still committed to that. And if it were to, and this is not the case, but if it were to become a situation where that could impair the direction we're heading with curriculum, we would stop the discussion about the athletic piece. Right now, I got to tell you, though, we need a little extra support in our athletic department. We are talking about ideas of how to make that to happen, whether it means an assistant AD or not, whether it means additional secretarial support. We need to continue to have the conversation so that we are making the right decision. I would encourage community members to reach out to us, me specifically, if you have any questions about the athletic department or some potential directions that we could be heading. I know I've heard a few ideas, like putting a teacher on assignment, developing a role that maybe isn't an assistant AD, but is an athletic coordinator. These are all options that we are having discussions about, and we will formulate some decisions as we move forward, and we will provide the community with the information as we work through those decisions. Sometimes things that sound like a good idea aren't, because they cost more money than you realize. Sometimes it's quite the opposite. But the more minds we have working on this, the better. I do want to thank our teachers who hold supplemental contracts, who assist us with athletic programming. Oftentimes this is in the form of a site supervisor. They do work hard to provide that extra assistance. One of the things we're discussing is maybe ways to better coordinate that effort. Just with so many people in those roles that their priority is teaching, not the extracurriculars. Sometimes it can be a challenge to make sure that we're giving all of our programs the attention that they deserve. Potential bond issue and redistricting. This is another topic that I've thrown out there very early to have conversation. Sometimes I think some of my colleagues, and I don't mean people in this district, but they wonder, well, why would you start talking about something like that now? Now you're dealing with this major issue where you're not going to have real movement until the next school year. Again, this goes back to my own personal philosophy that I just shared about the athletic department. Really making sure we're taking that collaborative approach. Redistricting stinks. I can tell you I'm not excited to redistrict. And I think a lot of our administrators and staff aren't either. And the reason why is because do I think we can improve academics for our students and academic opportunities for our students through redistricting? Yes, I do. The challenge with redistricting is no matter what decisions you make, there's going to be people that aren't going to be happy with the decisions because you can't make the right decision for absolutely everybody when you're talking about building boundaries, and especially when there's such a love and a connection, as you saw today, with our community schools across our district. That's my reason for throwing it all out so early, because I think it's important we start the conversation early so that when we do get down to the nitty-gritty next year, we're ready to move forward with some decisions that are in the best interest of our students. Another piece to it is we don't want to make I don't want to make a knee-jerk decision when it comes to redistricting. And we're actually in a very difficult time to make these decisions that we have to make. And the reason why we have to make them is because some of our buildings are filled to capacity. Others of our buildings have some room in them. And I think I've talked about that before at board meetings. You know, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. The good thing is people stay in Medina because they want to be here because it's such a great place. The bad thing is that students age out of the schools, the families stay, so we get decreased enrollment in some of our schools. Meanwhile, on the north and south end, we're seeing growth. The piece of this that makes things even more challenging is that our enrollment as a district has actually been going down. Our current senior class is somewhere in the 600s. Our elementary level classes are somewhere in the 400s. So we're seeing a 150 to 200 student decline. Do I know exactly why that has happened? No, but I've got a guess, and I think it has something to do with the state of the economy and the housing crisis that occurred, what's it been, 6, 7, 8 years already? And I think we're feeling the impact of that in terms of our student enrollment. So we're seeing this decline down into our lower grade levels, while at the same time, and this seems to be a regular thing the last couple months, it seems like every week I'm learning about a new development that's going up within our community. So as we're seeing a dip now, there's the potential that there could be an increase later on as we start moving forward. How do you plan for that? that's part of this redistricting discussion, and that's what we're trying to start figuring out. What I do know is that there's no way that there's enough room at Northrop, Blake, and Waite to house all of the students that are in those schools. We might have enough room district-wide, we might not. It's one of the reasons why we contacted the Ohio Facilities Construction Council. We did hear back from them. They are going to be coming in this summer, and they are going to provide us an outside perspective and view. They are going to provide us studies, population studies, enrollment studies, projections with the new housing developments that are going up, and they're going to make recommendations to us to help us make the right decisions. I want to make sure we're making the long-term decision that's best for our district, and that hopefully we're not sitting down here in another 4 years after we redistrict and are talking about redistricting again. So we're trying to take a very logical approach. While we are in the position where we have to talk about redistricting, I think it's a great time to look at some of our other offerings that we have across the district and ways we can improve academics for our students. And this is where some of the ideas are being thrown out, like a potential 5-6 building, a 7-8 building. There's been rumors about closing buildings. No decisions at all have been made. We are still having those discussions, just throwing ideas out. I would encourage any of our board members as well as our community to visit our web page. We have an entire website that we set up specifically for addressing any questions or any thoughts relating to a potential bond issue, and more specifically, the potential redistricting. Nothing is going to be happening next school year. The earliest anything at all would happen would be the following school year, so we're talking 2 years down the road. And we will be going through an extensive process next year, working with the community and staff as we try and make those decisions and keep in mind what's best for our students. One last thing I do want to mention about that is the Ohio Facilities Construction Council. Their involvement is extremely important. This is something that the board approved a few months ago at one of our board meetings to work with them. They are in Columbus, and they are funded through the tobacco money. So what they are doing is they're going to come in and work with us and do all these studies, and it's not at our district cost. The other thing is if we end up doing any construction, because that's the direction we decide is best, or do any facelifting to a building such as Claggett, where we still have students in trailers, if we continue to work with them, will provide us a percentage to help cover those costs. So that's part of what we're trying to take into consideration as well. So please know we do recognize what a difficult decision redistricting is. Also on that webpage, you can submit questions. We've had maybe 15 to 20. I've called every single one of those individuals that submitted a question and had conversations with them. So if you have questions, I will personally reach out to you because I want to make sure that our community's heard and that the input is received. I do have to say, I said this to Craig this morning, we have some passionate Fenn parents that want to stay at Fenn.
Mr. Sable?
Sure.
Just real quick, in terms of timing, because we know this is very, very preliminary, we don't even expect the Ohio Facilities Council, I always forget the last two C's, I apologize, Construction Commission to come out until the fall of 2019 or even 2020, correct?
They are actually scheduled to come out sometime this summer, and they're going to start their initial review of all of our facilities. They actually visit every building where students attend classes, and they look at the structure, they look at the capacity, and that's the process they're going to be starting over this summer. And the last item I have for discussion, I want to invite Dr. Kwolek up. She's the lucky one who gets to monitor our calamity days, and I just wanted to make sure the community heard where we're at in regards to calamity days, because we're a little bit all over the place across the district because of some of the days we had to call at the beginning of the year due to the HVAC issues at a couple of our buildings and also the heat days.
Oh, I said I was short. No, I don't have a slide. It's just me. Yes. So what I wanted to make sure we did with the public and with the board is remind everyone that because of the way Ohio Revised Code changed, school districts are now on hours instead of days. And so what that means is we try to share, we're on about an equivalent of 7 calamity days in the district for each building, because it's much easier to convert that to days instead of keep track of hours. But just so everyone knows, Sharon Oltersdorf, our EMIS coordinator, does a fantastic job of creating a wonderful, detailed Excel spreadsheet that calculates all the hours, and that's what we have to report to the state. But what we need to do is keep track in each building of the hours. And just to give you an example, our seniors are on a different calendar than the rest of our high school students because they have less days. Half-day kindergarten students are on a different calendar than all-day kindergarten students. And so because we're required to calculate things in hours instead of days, it becomes a much more challenging calculation. But the reason we wanted to present today is just to let everyone know that we do keep track of all that. And so when we're at an equivalent of about 7 days, because this year presented some different challenges, as Mr. Sable shared, each building is at a different number of days left, which is really what the students care about and what the staff cares about. So at this time, I just wanted to make everyone aware that most days left are about 4 days remaining, and those buildings are Blake, Heritage, Root, the high school, and Evolve Academy. And that's because those buildings, the only calamities this year were the snow days. Then there's 3 days left for Canavan, Fenn, Garfield, and Claggett. And then the rest of the buildings have 2 days remaining, and that would be Northrop Waite and our Helping Hands preschool. So we wanted to give the public a sense of, at this point in time, when we're towards the end, hopefully, of snow and winter and calamity, where we're at with calamity days. So if we got past those days, we could have a discussion with the board. If you wanted to extend the number of days we'd allow, we'd have to go back and calculate where we're at with the state minimum standard for hours, because the board has allowed for a little bit of wiggle room there. For example, you're required 1,100 hours from 7th through 12th grade, and we have a little bit of room in there. You're allowed to use an equivalent of 2 days of conferences, 2 days of teacher professional development. So there's some room in there, but we'd have to go back and calculate. But we all know that it's going to be nice and hot and warm, and we won't have to use any. So that's our hope. So do you guys have any questions about that?
Ms. Kwolek, I do. Will you be posting on the website that chart?
Yes. So Amy and I have something ready to go out right after the board meeting, so everyone's aware.
Great. Thank you.
Additionally, on the calendar, we did have previously identified days that could be used as makeup days, but because of the hour system, we may not need to use those then, correct?
Correct. So we do have days marked, and we also added on the calendar that it's 7 equivalent days. So we do have those marked, but hopefully we won't have to use those days. They'll be less necessary with the addition of the move to hours, if that's what you're asking. Yep. Good.
Yes, if it pleases the board. The district bank balance decreased by $1.1 million in January to $70.19 million. This is $482,000 below last year at this time. The general fund revenues were below last January by $2.7 million. The reason for this was property tax collections. What occurred between collections, you had your fall collections and your spring collections. The monies that we received in January were basically what was collected between the two. And so we're down $2.7 million. General fund expenditures, those were above last January by $1.8 million. You had personal services, benefits, purchase services, and supplies contributed to the increase. And this was all part of the strategic plan itself. The sales tax fund balance, it's up to $3.07 million. The district received the fourth quarter sales tax distribution of $834,000 in January and spent approximately $57,000. The largest portion of the $57,000 spent was on the high school roof repair. The Recreation Center Capital Fund, which is a new fund we're keeping track of, the balance is at roughly $601,000. The district was reimbursed by the city $8,652 for projects that occurred prior to January. The district received $98,300 in investment income in January. The total collected for the current fiscal year is roughly $240,000 above last year at the time, or sorry, the year before at the time, and we're at 85.2% of last year's collections. And finally, the district true day cash, meaning the amount of days we could operate without having another penny come in, is 229 days. This is down from December by 8.83 days and down from last year by 15.48 days. Questions?
Just a comment. Do you think with the decrease of collection, obviously you're saying is because not as much revenue came in for taxes, the revenue is still going to be there for property taxes. It's just that people probably were prepaying more last year with the tax changes going on or something, do you think?
Well, what's occurring is our first advance is usually what the auditor collects, or the treasurer collects. The treasurer collects from the last settlement to the first, to the time he opens collections itself. So the prepayments, if you want to call it prepayments, the delinquencies, the post payments from last year are down from the prior years itself. Yes, in February we received roughly $11 million so far, and I anticipate that we'll be right back where we were on collections for at the end with the settlement in March.
Thank you.
Are there any board communications?
Yes, Mr. Ross, I have a couple. Just wanted to let the community know that the Finance Committee meeting, the monthly meeting that is scheduled for tomorrow, has been canceled as both Aaron and Dave are not available. The March meeting, though, is scheduled for Wednesday, March 20th at 6 p.m. And on February 8th, I had the opportunity to attend the 4th annual Garfield Songwriting Workshop. It is made possible by one of our area's hidden gems, is what I call them, the Ohio Regional Music and Cultural Outreach Program. There were 8 fifth grade students who wrote lyrics and composed the background tracks to their own original songs. The theme was Songs of Grit. And the students, through the magic of music, were able to communicate how they themselves deal with their life struggles and difficulties. I was very impressed with these students and the courage it took to perform in front of 200 plus people, including the mayor who was there. Afterwards, I told them I knew exactly how they felt, because it's how I feel when I have to speak here at these board meetings. The executive director, Thomas Siegel, he hopes to take the workshop to Claggett in the future, and I hope that can happen soon. I think it's such a great opportunity for the students to communicate their feelings in such a creative manner. So it was neat to see, neat to watch.
Thank you.
Just on the facilities end of things, I do believe we're putting out a bid request for different pavement work to be done, and look forward to seeing that, what those numbers come in, and we'll be reporting back on that. Trying to get as many things bid early as we can to try to get on people's schedules and get the best numbers we can. Also, I was up a few weeks ago in the school and came in on a Saturday, and they were doing I realized there was a debate going on, a debate exercise, and Revere was here. I am walking the halls, and I'm seeing these amazingly well-dressed and young individuals posed in various corners around the room, around the school, pacing up and down. Got to talk to several of them, as well as some other staff from other school districts. It's just very encouraging that what Mr. Quaid does with that group. A gal from Wadsworth was just elated with what Medina does and encouraging us to do what we can to expand and or support him in that process. And I know we mentioned it at the work session. I hope that we can do that. Students have come back to me, and I've heard how much that debate has impacted them after they leave here in the schools and whatnot. And we even heard tonight, young man sharing about how well it prepares them for their future. So those are some really encouraging things for me that you just don't see, don't hear about it all the time, but it's happening. And tip my hat to Mr. Quaid and all of the people that are working with that as well.
Thank you.
Curriculum committee met last month. We meet again next week already. Time flies. Policy committees also has met for the first round. And then I wanted to mention that Mr. Ross and I have had an opportunity to attend several of the building chats with Mr. Sable and Mr. Chambers, and I appreciate being able to attend those. Staff and teachers ask any and all questions. They provide feedback to us about what's working and what additional support they may need. I think this week we're going to Fenn, and I encourage the staff to be able to stop by, and any board members as well, to either this week or any other building, to even just stop in for a little bit and get a new perspective. Thank you.
I just want to, actually, I want to piggyback off of that, Mrs. Parkers. I agree. I'd love to hear the staff and what they have to say, because I think it's hugely important. And getting around all the buildings, I think, is equally important to, with Mr. Sable, to hear what everybody has to say. So, just want to share that. Also, I want to, I don't know how to say it, just thank all the kids tonight and staff who presented to the board for the Board of Education Day. Is that what it is? Board of Education Month. That was adorable, if I could put in a word. So I want to thank everybody for that. And lastly, the Rec Center Board will meet Thursday at 7:30 at the Rec Center, and everybody's welcome. Thank you. Treasurer action items. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, if it pleases the board, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the January 2019 Treasurer's Report. Number 2, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following supplementals for 2018-19 permanent appropriations. On there, if you notice, there's 3 additions that I added on today. We received monies here on Friday for the auxiliary services, so I wanted to get them out to the board as soon as possible. So, because their biennium ends here on June 30th, so they need as much time to get these monies spent. We also have Title III LEP. I mentioned to you last month that title funds will be changing. The LEP is actually run through a consortium because we get below, I believe it's $10,000, and so we have to run it through a consortium. With changes of people not spending monies from last year, the consortium then turns around and distributes the monies over those that did spend. So we received another $229.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's action items.
I'll second.
Board discussion? Any member of the public would like to comment, come down to the podium and comment on the treasurer's action items? Seeing none, Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Ross.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Sable, action items from the
Number 1 is donations. We're fortunate to have a long list, as always. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations to Medina City Schools. Couple donations I'd like to point out. A almost $14,000 donation from Laser Insurance and Financial Services to improve and do upgrades on our varsity baseball fields. Also, the multiple donations that we have going to Blake Elementary School to help out our students going to Camp Christopher. In addition, we've had lots of donated pizza, so our students are eating well. And we also have student council at the high school giving back to the Ohio Bluebird Society. The second item is memorandums of understanding. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the memorandums of understanding between the Medina City School District and the following colleges and universities: Cleveland State University, Cuyahoga Community College, Kent State University, Lorain County Community College, the University of Akron, the University of Toledo, and these are all for the College Credit Plus program. It is to our advantage as a district to enter into these MOUs with the universities that our students attend for College Credit Plus. If we don't enter into an agreement, it gives the universities the opportunity to charge us the maximum fees for our students' attendance. Number 3, new Medina High School course offerings. I think we've discussed these now at 3 board meetings, including a work session. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the new high school course offerings for the 19-20 school year as attached. Number 4 is non-enrolled students. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve non-enrolled students to participate in Medina City Schools Rugby Club for the duration of their high school years as submitted. The reason why I'm making this recommendation to you today, and I do have the students' names because they're their full names listed in administrative content. We did get parent sign-off in order to present these students to the board for approval tonight. As I mentioned earlier this evening, this year we have transitioned our club sports over into the athletic department with the increased oversight. That's changed some of the parameters of those activities because they are overseen by the school district. Students that are not community members or do not attend our schools can no longer be part of those organizations. This isn't the case with something like hockey, and I get that question a lot. Well, what about hockey? Well, the reason why is because we have absolutely nothing to do with hockey. Yes, they do use our name, and I think a lot of people associate the hockey program with us, but it's actually not our program at all. What we wanted to do and what we've been hoping to do is to grandfather some of our students in that have been involved in those programs from other schools. Specifically, that's both our boys and our girls rugby programs. They've had a program that's been quite extensive going down to the middle school level, and it has included students from surrounding districts. Our goal or my goal in this recommendation tonight is to allow those students from outside of our district to continue to participate as high schoolers through graduation. So this recommendation, if approved, would need to be made to the board again until those students are rotated out of the program. From that point on, it would be solely Medina City School students participating. The reason why I need to make this recommendation to you is because we want to ensure that if we have outside students participating in our programs, that they are covered under the district's insurance policy in case anything were ever to happen to them. So it's for protection for the school district. We have reached out to our insurance company and they said they would be fully covered. However, they ask that board approval occur before they provide that full coverage. So that's the purpose of this recommendation this evening. Our other club sports, bowling, men's volleyball, do not currently have students outside of the district participating, so we did not have the same issue that we were running into with those programs. Number 5 is field trips for the 18-19 and 19-20 school years. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trips in compliance with Policy 2340 for the 18-19 and 19-20 school years. All of these trips are trips that have historically occurred within the district in the past. I do want to point out, especially when we're looking at overseas trips, we have had students go overseas with the Chinese program, as well as we have with other foreign languages. This doesn't mean these trips are actually going to occur. There's a lot of work that goes into the planning, and the advisors don't begin the planning until there's board approval for the trip to even occur. Then the planning starts, and that's when we start gauging student interest as well as working out the costs. None of these overnight field trips are a cost to the district. They're all supported through fundraising as well as out of parents' pockets in order to make these trips possible. I do want to point out that the actual trip submissions are located in the administrative content section, and that's because these contain details about for the trips that are ready to go, where they'll be staying on the trip, and we prefer not to make that information public. Number 6 is amended Medina Community Recreation Center brochure. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the City of Medina's amended Recreation Center brochure for sponsorship opportunities in the Recreation Center. All funds are split between the city and district for capital improvement purposes. This is something that was approved by the board last year or the year before. In a previous year, the rec center wanted to make some adjustments to where advertising was occurring or is now no longer going to occur. For instance, I believe they were advertising over the Wi-Fi, and that's something they're no longer going to do. From my understanding, that was due to feedback that they received from members. They also want to expand some opportunities for some future advertising to help support funds for the rec center, which again helps the district and helps the recreation center, the city. Number 7, amended service agreement. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following amended service agreement for the 18-19 school year, and this is with Education Alternatives. And this is to provide services for special education students. Number 8 is an additional service agreement. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following service agreement effective January 2019 to January 2020. This is a service agreement we have entered into the last many years for Apex Learning. This is online credit recovery programming that we provide students at our high school. And personnel, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following recommendations pending completion of all hiring packets. Couple things I do want to point out here. We do have a retirement on here for retirement at the end of the year, and I'd like to say a few words about that individual. Terry O'Grizek, retiring at the end of this school year. Terry has worked in the district for 17 years, plus sub for 3 years prior to being hired as a cook at Heritage. She switched positions and began as a paraprofessional at Blake Elementary School and has worked as a paraprofessional at Garfield Elementary School for the last 7 years. She is known for being patient and always supportive of students, as well as a very caring person. She will be missed at Garfield Elementary School. I'm glad we have her for the remainder months of the school year, and we wish her the best as she enters retirement. The last thing that I wanted to point out here is that I'm sure you saw in the paper that our athletic department has a recommendation for a new head girls soccer coach, and that is included in tonight's recommendations. Normally, we wouldn't include the fall coach this time of year. However, with the position being a high-profile position, as our girls soccer program is, as well as it being a head coaching position, I wanted to make that recommendation to you this evening. In addition, off-season training per OHSAA guidelines is also underway as well. So ideally, having our new head coach approved would be the best situation. Any questions about any of my items?
Just back to the non-enrolled students for the sports. If there's a fee associated with that, they would still pay the fee just as if Medina students would as well, correct?
That's correct. They would pay any fees involved to support their participation in the programming.
Let me get a motion first before we discuss.
I'll move we approve the consent items.
I'll second.
Board discussion.
Mr. Ross, I just wanted to step back to number 6 and the rec center sponsorship. I know this started several years back.
Thank you.
Before I was on the board. I understand that there were some concerns back then about what it might turn into. A good idea, what sounds like a good idea, but then as time goes on and the process happens, I appreciate the initial idea and the intent of securing and earning additional dollars for the district and the city. I feel, and I have been to the rec and seen what the advertisements have turned into. And now that the banners are adhered to every available wall space and the track railing, and in my opinion, has begun to take away from the aesthetically pleasing exercise environment of the building. It feels like you're walking through a sporting arena rather than a physical fitness center. Patrons are paying membership fees to go work out, not get inundated with advertisements. I did some research on similar rec centers, and none of them have the type of sponsorships in the quantity that has been reached in Medina. I've asked that if administration can consider looking at maybe some more creative ways in regards to that advertising. One of the rec center staff members, has mentioned to me in the past, they wanted our rec center to be like Westlake's. I took a look at pictures of Westlake's facility, and they have a much less intrusive, yet still feasible method for advertisers and generate that money. They also utilize electronic screens, and we just stated that the Wi-Fi has been removed. And it's just counterintuitive because we're doing the touch screens here for our student athletes to recognize them, the touch screens at the PAC. So I was surprised that the Wi-Fi, the advertisements, the electronic advertisements were taken away there. Again, I appreciate the efforts to generate the funds, but I just wonder if there's a better way to do it and still allow us to maintain the aesthetics of the building as a physical fitness facility that is desirable for our community members and the rec center patrons.
Thank you, Mrs. Pavlik. I appreciate your concerns. I do want to remind the public that the rec center is not our facility. I was the board representative on we had a sponsorship committee, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago when we were considering this with City Council. There were two, well, Mr. Ross was on with me. We were the 2 board reps, and there were 2 City Council members on that. We talked about it, and we saw it as a win-win to help with the funding of repairs and maintenance and the capital improvement fund of the rec center. So again, the rec center is not the building is our facility. However, the actual operation of it is not ours. It's not our responsibility, just the actual building. And if we are able to receive money from sponsorships to help us with the maintenance of that, I think that's a win for us.
I understand that, but again, we are set to approve another banner that's going to go up there. So it is the board that is approving the ads and the sponsorships that are going out there. So again, I understand that the city runs the rec center, but again, with our building, I just feel that there could be a better way with the amount of money that it does bring in, the nominal amount of money. I just think that there could be some more creative ways to address that.
I would, if you have time, Thursday, we have, excuse me, we have a meeting Thursday with the rec center board. I would welcome you to come and express your concerns. Any other?
Or any new creative ways.
Any other board discussion? Any discussion, any public comments on the superintendent's action items? Seeing none. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Skidmore.
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst.
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood.
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik.
Aye.
Mr. Ross.
Aye. We have a few items that were separated out from our agenda. Mr. Sable?
The next item is purchase of real estate. This is something that we discussed at a previous meeting. It is recommended that the Board of Education purchase 0.629 acres of property located at 347 North Huntington Street for $65,000 for the purpose of completing a mutual beneficial land exchange with the city of Medina. Just to clarify this a little bit, we do not currently own the Bowman House. The Bowman House is where we provide extensive life skill special education services for our students. We did at one time own the Bowman House, but that property was swapped so we could obtain the Northrop property where Northrop is currently built. That program provides services for over 20 of our students on a yearly basis. If we weren't providing those services in the district, we would have to provide those services in another way. Oftentimes, the way districts do that is they pay other schools to provide those services for them. And I'm just going to give you a figure off the cuff, but you could be talking up to towards $100,000 per student to provide those type of academics. Because of the size of our district, we're able to offer the services in-house and actually save money in doing that. If we were a smaller school district and we had less students participating in the program, it may not be financially responsible. But because of our size, it is. The opportunity to collaborate with the city and do a land swap, the original cost for that land, as told, was well over $200,000. So $65,000 is a good price. In addition, I want to make sure the board is aware that we did research potentially purchasing other properties, other houses, so that they would be district owned. You're talking at the very minimal, at least $100,000 to be able to get a home in the area. And then on top of that, adjustments would need to be made to that home to make it handicap accessible. Where the Bowman House over by Reagan Park that we currently utilize is already handicap accessible. We were actually very fortunate when we first moved into that property because the house already had built wide hallways. In addition to that, we've added a second kitchen for educational purposes for those students. I would anticipate that a recommendation for the land swap would be made at our next regular meeting. One of the discussions that we've had and what we're trying to coordinate is to get our Bowman House teachers as well as some of our students in here to present to you on exactly the kinds of things that they do over at the Bowman House at that next regular meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this purchase of real estate.
I'll second.
Board discussion.
I think it's a fair price for that property. It'll be a benefit to Mellert Park to expand over there. It's with the city once we do the exchange. I do wish we had the exchange tonight. I know we're not approving that tonight, we're approving the purchase, but we have a handshake that tells us that that will happen. And I think the administration's confident in their discussions back and forth that that will happen. So thank you. And the contract's been reviewed by council as well. So good, thank you.
I'd like to also put in that we've had a chance to look at the facility earlier in the year. We've heard some of the numbers and some of the options, and I really think that it is a very good deal for the district and for the population that it serves. I'm confident it's the right move, and I'm glad that the city works so well with us, and I look forward to that continuing. But there's a lot of different things that went into the decision, and I'm very appreciative for the people that did the due diligence.
Mr. Ross, I'd also like to add that what the city is proposing as far as with the property at the Bowman House and Bowman Lane, and actually redirecting the direction of Bowman Lane so that it runs right into Woodland. I'm very familiar with that intersection over there, and it is very challenging, particularly in the morning. I've seen buses sit there for 10 minutes trying to make a left-hand turn because cars coming out of Bowman Lane take away the opportunity for making that left-hand turn. So to match up that road into one straight shot, I think that's going to help everybody over there. So win-win.
Thank you. Any community comment on this action item? Seeing none. Ms. Chambers.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood?
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Thank you.
The next item is board approval for track railing advertisement sponsorship at the Recreation Center. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following sponsor per the City of Medina City Schools Recreation Center sponsorship agreement. This is for track railing, Barbara Wilson, Howard Hanna Real Estate.
I'll accept a motion to approve this action item.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Board discussion.
I think that just down the road, it makes good sense for us to kind of get a feet, just to see how things go. It's not ours to operate. Definitely understand that. Give us some time, and just like they made some decisions to tweak some other things on their own, be open-minded to seeing how this plays out. But it's how it's designed right now, so see how it goes.
Thank you. Any community comment on this action item? Seeing none. Ms. Chambers.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood?
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore?
Abstain for business relationship.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Thank you.
One more.
And the final item this evening is a personnel recommendation. It is recommended to the Board of Education that the following individual, Kathleen Ross, be approved as a volunteer for the school district.
I can get a motion to accept this action item.
I'll make a motion to accept the personnel action item.
And I'll second. Thank you.
Discussion. I'll discuss it. It's my wife, and she volunteers at Fenn for the running club, and she was involved in that reading program, so she loves it, and she wants to continue. Thank you. And as a result, I'll have to abstain. Any community comment? Seeing none, Mr. Chambers.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore?
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Abstain.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at the portion of the meeting for public participation, and I'm going to read this. Community members wishing to address the board. Okay, hang on. Thank you. It cut out on me. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public participation from all other attendees. Please state your name, address, and your affiliation. Please keep your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard, and all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. So is there any member of the community that wishes to address the school board? Okay. Seeing none. At this time, I would like to make a motion to move into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee or official, to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, and to prepare for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees.
I'll second that.
Board, wait. Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Skidmore?
Aye.
Mr. Eastwood?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Ms. Pavlik?
Aye.
Thank you.
And at this time, we'll move into executive session, and I don't anticipate any action being taken after. Thank you.